All right, good morning, everybody. I'm Leah. I'm one of the admins on the site, and I think a lot of people have questions about paper piecing versus foundation piecing with freezer paper. So I'm just going to do a short video on how to use freezer paper with foundation piecing because it makes your life so much easier. With paper piecing, you're actually sewing on the paper, so once you've made that block, that paper's done. With freezer paper, you're actually going to be able to reuse it multiple times. So here we go. So the first thing I want to show you, this is what I use. It's called applique freezer paper. You don't have to use this one. You can use any kind that you like. But what's nice about this is one side's dull, the other side's shiny. So this is ready to put in your printer to print your blocks. So you want to print on the dull side because when you iron, the shiny side is what's going to actually stick to your fabric. So this is just a small block for the Sea Swept quilt. So because this is the probably smallest, easiest one, well, there's one that's a little bit smaller, but it's just more pieces. This is going to be the quickest one to give you a demonstration on how to use freezer paper. So the first thing you want to do is to cut all your pieces according to the size in the pattern, which I've already done. A lot of times with paper piecing, you're not making exact cuts. You just need to have a piece big enough. These, they've made in exact cuts. And I don't cut everything up from the get-go for this quilt because I don't know how I'm going to lay out my colors yet. And I have no way to actually draw it out. It's too complicated with using Batiks to figure out what colors are going to go where. So I cut a little bit of each Batik fabric, and I cut a bunch of the white fabric, and then I cut as I go when I need more. All right, so the first thing we're going to do is this piece of paper has letters on it too. So this white piece of fabric is B1. So B1 is the centerpiece. So what we're going to do is we're going to lay our paper right on top of the fabric. And then we're going to iron this. But we only want to iron in this diamond center. So I just have one of these small irons. And I'm just going to iron this down so that it actually sticks to the paper. Doesn't take a lot, but I give it a good iron. All right, then the next ones, you have B2, B4, B5, and B3. These two up here are going to be one color. These two down here are going to be another color. So it doesn't really matter if I go in order as long as I keep my colors right. So I'm just going to do these first. So I'm going to fold back on this line here. I hope you can see that. On this line here, I'm going to fold this paper back. So I pre-fold my paper so that it's easier to fold once you get started. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a ruler and I'm going to cut this away. But I want to leave 1/4 of an inch here next to the paper. So we'll come over here to my cutting surface. And I put my ruler where the 1/4 of an inch line is on the fold. And then I cut. So now it looks like this. So I have some fabric here to sew on. Now the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take one of my other pieces of fabric, it's a little bit smaller, and I want to do right sides together. So your right side is going to be facing up, and you're gonna line up the edge that you just cut with the edge of that piece. And you wanna make sure that in the area, I don't know if you can see this, in the area that you're gonna be sewing, that you have a little bit of room here and a little bit of room here, because you're gonna sew from here to here. And you're gonna sew right next to your folded paper, but not on it. So we'll go to the sewing machine and do that. And make sure you backspace. Just sew right next to it, the paper. All right, and then back over to, come back over here, camera. Okay, so now what I like to do, you don't have to do this step, but I do because I've creased the line wrong. So I unfold the paper and I turn it over this way. And I just lightly iron this here just so that it has the direction that it's supposed to be going on that crease. And then I turn it, flip it over, and I press that down. Okay, so now we're going to do the opposite side. So we're going to fold this back, and we're going to cut this away. So again, put your 1/4 of an inch line from your ruler on your fold and cut. So you're going to cut some of that fabric that you just sewed on, just a little tiny bit, and then a white piece off. So now it looks like this. So then take your other piece of fabric, right side up, and again line edge to edge up, and then sew this. All right, so then you open your paper back up, flip it over, iron this so it creases right, flip it back over, and iron on top of your paper. Now we're going to do the opposite side. So we're going to fold the paper back. We're going to cut this off, just like we did before. Line your ruler up with the fold on your paper, your 1/4 inch mark, and cut everything away that's right there. You're going to be cutting a lot of the fabric off that you just sewed on. Grab your next piece of fabric, right side up, line up your edges, again leaving some at the start and stop so that you know that you're going to catch all your fabric. Come over to your sewing machine and sew. Okay, again, unfold your paper, flip it over, press that crease, flip it over to the paper side, and iron on top of the paper. And then we have our last corner to do. So we're going to fold that back. We're going to cut away. We'll want to make sure we have a 1/4 of an inch of fabric left after we cut. Get your last piece, right side up. Line it up with the edge and sew that. Okay, so now we unfold the paper, flip it over, iron this so it creases right, flip it back over, and then iron on top of the paper. All right, so now your paper is stuck down to this whole piece of fabric. Now what we want to do, this line here to this outside line is your 1/4 inch seam allowance. So we're going to cut around this outside edge. Not on this line, but on this was a dotted line before I actually cut them out. So we want to cut all the way around on the very outside edge of the paper. So what I do is I put my 1/4 inch line on the 1/4 inch line on the pattern, and then I cut. So that way I don't cut off. I'm cutting off right at the outside of the actual pattern. You don't want to cut your pattern any smaller. And cut all the way around. All right, so now it looks like this. And then we're all done, so we're just going to peel it away from the paper. And you have one of your pieces for the Sea Swept quilt. And then this piece of paper, because we didn't sew on the paper, we just folded back and sewed right next to it. And it still has some sticky to it. It doesn't feel sticky at all, but when you iron it, it sticks to the fabric. You can reuse this like 6 times, maybe more. I haven't really counted, but it's several uses you get out of it before you have to print and cut a new piece out. So that's my tutorial on foundation piecing with freezer paper. I hope everyone could see it okay. I don't usually do videos, so this is a first for me, but I hope it was helpful. See you guys around. Bye.